Hey, welcome to today's podcast. Welcome to Western New York Entrepreneur, where we help entrepreneurs take the next step in their own business. And as you can see, if you are watching this, we're doing a video podcast today. So say hi to the camera, Mike.
What's going on, Buffalo and everyone else out there?
Yeah, so we're in Bean Media production studio. We have Mike, the owner of Bean Media, if I said that correctly. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And by the way, if you're watching this and you're driving, pull over. I don't want to be liable for anything that goes on while you're driving. So if you are listening to this, awesome. But if you're watching it while you're driving, please don't do so.
Bad idea.
Yeah, really horrible idea. But that being said, Mike, so for those who don't know anything about Bean Media or know anything about Mike Bean in general, what should we know about you?
Sure. I think the long and short of it is that we're a full service digital marketing organization. So if you have been shopping for, let's say, sneakers, and all of a sudden those sneakers start to pop up on the sidebar when you're looking at the weather, or you're watching a video on YouTube that your aunt sent you to say, how cute is this kitten? And a little 30-second ad pops up before it that you have to watch for 5 seconds before you can skip it. Sorry, our fault.
Yeah, you're the culprit.
Yeah, that's us. So that's just kind of what we do. We develop websites. We produce video, and we also put together those ads that I was just talking about. We're Google partners. And then the other thing is that we make websites very easily found by using video and using search engine optimization with all of our content writers that we employ to make sure that we're constantly putting out relevant content for every business that works with us and partners with us through blogs and other kind of content, marketing kind of efforts.
Yeah. So how did you get into this?
It's kind of funny because I started with a degree in media production with an emphasis on video production. And I was just trying to pad my resume by doing some freelance work right out of college. I was bartending, and my wife, was a tenured teacher already. And we weren't married quite yet, but I knew that was on the horizon. And I didn't want to ask her to uproot and go to like LA or New York, where I thought all the jobs were with my skill set. Mm-hmm. So with that, I ended up falling backwards into starting a company. Had no idea what I was doing, and was starting to do a lot of television commercials. Did a few wedding videos, and realized immediately that was not my flavor. Yeah, too much stress and too many hours for too little pay. You could make basically the same amount of money making a TV commercial than you could shooting an entire wedding.
Yeah, because all of it's hobby editing.
And then you're on call all day long, and then you're working with bridezillas, right?
Yeah, so it's true. This TV show.
You're always worried that if you screw up, they're going to just wring your neck.
So how long ago was this, by the way, Mike, that you kind of fell into it?
2006.
Okay.
Yeah, 2006. So and then that's when, like I said, I started the company, and the economy crashed 2 years later.
Yeah, 2008.
Yeah, and I got a message from one of my good friends. She was actually in my wedding, that was selling spots for Channel 4, here in Buffalo. And she said that corporate told her to stop even trying to sell TV spots for local businesses because the economy here couldn't support it. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I saw the writing on the wall, because they said instead of that, try to sell banner ads on our website because they're cheaper. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right, well, I'm not going to make a career out of making TV commercials if no one's even selling them. Mm-hmm. So then that was a blessing in disguise. That also taught me the value of Aldi. I was trying to fool myself and saying that hot dogs from Aldi were as good as Salen's, and ramen noodles were a great dinner, and box wine was fine. And Natty Light was cool too. I was really. You
just look at a picture of Coors Light while drinking the Natty or whatever you're doing. Right?
So I was like, things are cheap. I had to keep things cheap just while we made it through these lean years. But like I said, it was a blessing in disguise because I started to move towards the internet. And was one of the pioneers when it comes to video SEO, and then surrounded myself with the people I went to school with that knew web development, and just started to grow the business from more of a web focused mindset. And that's why now we're Google partners, and that's why we now have a couple web developers, and graphic designer. Our producer here, Shelby, today is also our our graphic designer rather, and digital marketing.
So how many employees do you have now?
I have 4 employees and a couple 1099s.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love 1099. I've been one since I was 18.
Yeah.
I don't even know what a W-2 looks like anymore.
Right.
But that being said, so let's dive into some meat and potatoes and some learning. So for our listeners out there that, a lot of them are newer entrepreneurs. Some have been in the game for a long time, and then everywhere in between, or some are even just thinking about entrepreneurship. So as a marketing person, who literally does this for a living, mm-hmm. What are some of the mistakes you notice entrepreneurs make in terms of marketing their business?
Well, the biggest mistake is not allocating enough money for marketing.
Okay.
A lot of times people will either take out a loan or they'll create a business plan, and they keep a very small percentage of it towards marketing. Mm-hmm. So they basically create a new brand for themselves, a new label for themselves, but they don't have enough capital to get that out there. Because people don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So if they don't know you exist, there's going to be a good chance that you're not going to succeed. Mm-hmm. So that's the first one. And the other one is if you've been in a business for a while, it's getting stuck in old habits. I've talked to so many people who heavily relied on old mediums, and some of them like the phone book. Well, the phone book's been working for me for 30 years, right? Mm-hmm. And I've made plenty of money, using that. And all of a sudden, I don't realize why I'm not making money anymore because I keep doing the same things I've been doing for 30 years. Why is it not working? Our society has changed dramatically in the last year, let alone 5-10 years. So those are things that need to come into the equation. As the society changes their habits, you need to also change your marketing trends. Mm-hmm. I actually was working with a guy who was sitting there. He just got his first phone, the smartphone. He was very antiquated when it came to technology.
Yeah.
And I went into his business, and we were just putting a simple website together for him. And his name was Mike. And he had his new iPhone next to him. And he was thumbing through the yellow pages. And I said, Mike, you can get that done in 15 seconds on the phone that's sitting right next to the yellow pages. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, but he still is kind of like stuck in using like, the penny saver or this, and not that those things are bad, but you need to start to move things over, supplement some of that dollars, some of those dollars, and move them over towards digital marketing. So
let's talk about, since you said about moving over, I just want to piggyback off what you said. What are some new things in the horizon that business owners should be looking into that maybe aren't big names yet, or maybe it's newer, not a lot of business owners know about it? What are some areas of marketing or expertise that you think they should explore at least?
Well, one of the things that's very, very crucial right now is making sure that your website is what we call responsive. So for a few years back, there was a trend where firms would sell a mobile website and what they call static website. Mm-hmm. The way that we build sites is that we make them responsive, and a lot of the web firms do this. I would be surprised if any of them do not do this. Mm-hmm. To make sure that when you look at that site on a phone or a tablet, it recalibrates the size based on screen resolution. Mm-hmm. So that way you're not like doing that pinch. So if you have to go on your site, your own website, or and you have to do the pinch and zoom kind of thing, mm-hmm. Then it's not responsive. It's not recalibrating automatically. And that immediately turns the consumer off. Okay. So that's one thing that I think is pretty important. And I'm sorry, the question.
You basically answered it.
Yeah.
Now, things are popping in my head as this podcast goes. Now, before we actually push the record button, we were talking about SEO a little bit earlier. So what are some of the misconceptions of SEO? Not that we talked about this because we didn't, but are there actually, is there a misconception of SEO? And in terms of like people saying, well, I'm going to get you to the top page, and they don't, or just talk about SEO in general, misconceptions or things that people should know in terms of businesses.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that, we get people call us, which is, I told the one guy, it's just embarrassing. we could help you with your SEO rankings. I said, did you look at our website? Because we specialize in that.
Yeah.
So you might want to take us off your list. And so there's things like that, that you get these calls, and they're just kind of people who they're reading off a script. For every answer, they have a rebuttal on their script. They have a laminated page in front of them.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
And then they'll say, well, we can guarantee that we'll get you to page 1 in 30 days. Well, my question to them would say, do you own Google? You know what I mean? It's like you don't own Sandbox, you just play in it.
Yeah.
So you can't necessarily guarantee anything, especially if you're just going to say, I'm going to fix this in a month, because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Okay.
You need to partner with somebody who is going to be adding consistent content and understand the metadata that needs to go along with it. That will, like I said, coincide with the constant, what we call content marketing. So we want to establish a company as an expert in their field. It's also important to me to have somebody who has a finger on the pulse of that region, as well as that industry.
So you mean like region like plumber or electrician or car dealership, like that kind of region you're talking about?
One of the examples I guess I would give when I talk about region is that we were working with a company that was doing work for the homeless. And unfortunately, one of the well-known homeless people in Williamsville passed away in a bus stop. We wrote a blog about that because we saw it on the news, and we immediately responded to it. And it wasn't to take advantage of this, this poor man. It was to bring awareness at a time that was very appropriate. So if you don't get to these articles right away when they're timely, then you miss out. So like I said, we're not trying to take advantage of somebody's like bad situation, but it's also like a topical thing in the news.
Yeah, you don't want to write it a week later because now it's already come to pass. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So then once again, people find a kind article about this human being who had an unfortunate situation, and then we would shine a light on the organization that could help someone like this person. So these are the things that we do on a regular basis, and then we weave in the keywords that are most popular. So we look at the things that are trending, and we also look at the most popular keywords within an industry.
So how do you find those keywords in your industry?
We have software that will look at an average, and it's a non-bias, like basically scope of what is popular. Because when you go into your computer, you'll look at something and you'll maybe get a different representation or a different response than somebody else because of the cookies that are stored in your computer.
Okay.
So you might think like, hey, my business comes up first because every time I Google it, it comes up first. Well, that's because you visit it every single day.
Oh, it's actually not. It's not what someone else is going to get.
So we use software that's non-biased that will give us an actual snapshot of where those rankings are and where that business actually, lines up with also the software that shows us what the most popular keywords are within an industry. So that's like, our first step. And then we go and we take, some time to write these cornerstone articles that have those keywords in it. And then we go to the next level, and then we just start writing relevant content on a very regular basis, and then make sure that all of the metadata and all the tags and things like that in the back end of the website are all cleaned up.
Yeah. So that's so good. And, in case you don't know, this is like our 4th podcast interview with someone that does some type of marketing out there.
Right.
But it's just so important because I feel like half the battle is getting clients or retaining clients or just attracting awareness and branding out there. So do you have any tips in terms of awareness or branding or that maybe I missed or maybe you didn't get a chance to touch on yet?
Yeah, I think one of the things is, like you said, is retention. So there's ways of using Google tools and Google Ads to make sure that you're not only retaining the same clients, but you're retaining the eyeballs on your site and your competitor sites. So there is a way that if, let's say, you're plumber Y and you are competing with plumber A, B, and C, we can make sure that anyone who visited plumber A, B, and C gets to your site as well, by using these display ads like I was talking about earlier, about like those ads that kind of follow you around. We do it in a delicate way, so it's not obnoxious, because and that's a balance as well. So I think that there's that. And then, some of the things that, just when it comes to, like I said, keeping great clients, what we try to do is that, reach out, send monthly reports, and make sure that we keep in touch. And then if we feel as if we haven't given a client enough TLC, we have the ability in-house to just throw them a bone, like say, hey, can we do a quick little video for you?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. So I think, it's real easy to get comfortable, with your clientele base. Just as long as you don't fall into that trench, that's probably my best tip is just make sure that your clients know that they matter, and look at them as a partnership, maybe less as a client. That's
good. Yeah. And so a lot of, at least for me, when I first started my businesses, I always had I always thought to myself, well, when should I hire a marketing company, or when, is there a certain profit point, or should I just do right off the beginning? Because I know that, you have to have a budget for it, right? Yeah. So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are thinking about getting a marketing company? Maybe they're not really, they haven't made it yet. Maybe they're the only employee they have. Like, when should they really start thinking about hiring marketing out?
Well, that's a good question, because I'll be the first one to say I've had people in the office before that came in and they said, I only have a couple $100 a month. I said, well, let's talk in 6 months. But here's some things that you can do in the interim. So I would say just make sure that you have a positive presence online. Make sure that your Google listing is up to date and is accurate, and you own it. Because a lot of people don't think about that, because that's, a first impression. Encourage people to give you positive, response on those kind of platforms, like, Google business listings and things. Okay. I think that's kind of your first step. Okay. And then, take care of your social media, but don't let it get in the way of your business. If you have a social media account and you're not necessarily keeping up with it, get rid of it. Okay. Because a dusty social media account isn't doing anything for you. So if you find that taking care of your online presence is getting in the way of running your business, I think there was a Quicken ad a while ago that says, is running your business getting in the way of running your business? That cracks me up still. And I think that the commercial is like 10 years old. It's one of those things that if the marketing's starting to get in your way, get to a point where you can get just a reasonable budget, even a small budget, and then talk to somebody like us or another marketing firm that's willing to take on smaller entrepreneur type clients.
So what's considered a small budget? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. You don't have to answer this question. What's a small budget? Well, you're like, yeah, it's a small budget, but we can work with that.
I mean, I would say that you probably, like the most minimal budget would probably be about $500 a month.
Okay. Yeah. It's good to know, because sometimes people what's small or large is completely different on perception, right? And where they are, right? Yeah. So, I remember like 6 years ago thinking a couple $1,000s on assistance a month would be a lot. Now it's like, oh, it's normal. Right. It's normal now. So that was big. Now it's small. Yeah. So I want to make sure I'm getting that correct.
Yeah. Like I said, I would think that that's kind of the starting point. We have some people who we've worked with that are kind of grandfathered in that are a little less than that. But just as we kind of fell in love with, the relationship. Yeah. And I mean, that's just kind of probably my lack of business,
No, that's more of a love versus
so there's you have to sometimes you have to separate your heart from your business to a certain extent.
So that being said, I want to have some fun. So what is your favorite story? What was like your most fun client? Or we can totally do a 180 here and be like, what is the most craziest moment that totally went wrong?
Okay. So I know the one that went wrong. This is real easy. We were doing a shoot for one of our old clients, and we actually rekindled the relationship recently. And it wasn't that this changed the relationship, but we were interviewing, and I won't say the name of the organization, but we were interviewing a top executive for a very big national company. Okay. In our old studio. And this person is no longer with us, and this is part of the reason, maybe. Sure. We got through the entire interview with this vice president of this huge organization. And my videographer at the time whispers in my ear, I forgot to hit record.
Oh.
And I was devastated.
Oh. So what happened with the executive? I'm sure he wasn't happy.
So I just tried to spin it the best I could at the time, but it was very evident that, and I said to him, like, this ever happens again,
we're done.
You're done.
Yeah.
And when it comes to one of the coolest moments is I was working with Joe DeLongmuir, Hall of Fame, Buffalo great, electric company, OJ and all. OJ went off to do some different things, but and we set up this whole shoot to make. We had 5 cameras in there, a full crew, and we were at Salem's indoor
sports park.
Yeah, and he walked in, and we were there before him because we had all set up, all lights, camera, action, all that kind of stuff. And he looks at me, he goes, Mike, I didn't think we were going to Hollywood for this. Mm-hmm. So that, to me, that was just it's a huge.
Yeah, it's kind of like a defining moment.
Yeah, it was. Well, he was actually really early in my career. He was one of my first big clients, okay. And so that was just you know what? I think I got this, mm-hmm. And that gave me some confidence to just keep moving in the needle in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. And so it's so funny that person's no longer here, so that's good. And I've done a podcast interview before where the batteries ran out. Yeah. On the recorder, and we had to do that all over again, which was tough because you don't remember which question you asked and what you talked about. Yeah. But I've done that. So, what was the biggest mistake you ever made as a business owner?
Probably not delegating sooner. You know what I mean? I think I spent a lot of time doing everything by myself. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time working with all 1099s, working out of an office in my basement, going on shoots by myself. I think making a move to an office and separating myself from the house and moving into an office studio kind of thing sooner probably would have changed things a little bit. But
what stopped you from doing that, you think?
Trepidation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that was it. I was afraid to take the leap.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things that a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs struggle with. Is it time yet? Mm-hmm. And I think, you say trust your gut, but sometimes you just got to jump.
Yeah. Yeah. Push the bird out of the nest.
Yeah.
No, that's good. So is there anything else? We only have probably a few minutes left. Mm-hmm. So before we ask our question here, if someone's really enjoying this interview, if they really want to connect with you, mm-hmm. what's the best way to do so? Well, you can find us at beanmediaproductions.com. Or you can always call the office at 716-898-8074. And we also have an email that goes to all the team members. It's called beanteam@beanmediaproductions.com. Mm-hmm. So, and it's green bean, just bean like green bean. Yeah, the logo. Yeah, right. That's good. So, and we just launched a new website. It's still a work in progress. And I always say that websites are always 90 to 95% done, mm-hmm. because they're always a work in progress. Mm-hmm. So we launched it, and if anybody wants to take a look at it and say, give us some feedback on what they think, I'm open to it, because that's the other thing. Healthy feedback is always, something that we pass around the office and make sure that there's no feelings that get hurt. It's like, all right, that's your opinion. And if we think it's helpful and constructive, then we're obviously going to gravitate towards it. Yeah, that's good. And that's good that you have pride, because how many times as entrepreneurs we can have pride saying, I have it all figured out, right? Mm-hmm. Or I have it all done. But is there anything else that we need to touch on in terms of marketing or what you do or what you feel like you're an expert in? Is there something that we should tell entrepreneurs or they should know? Well, I mean, I think the thing is that when it comes to, once again, the responsive website, that's very important. Making sure that you're being seen and being heard, and we want to grow with you. That's our tagline, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then so with that, to be seen and be heard, you need to make sure that your website's easily found, your videos are easily found, and then studies have shown that if you show up in the paid advertising as well as in the organic advertising with search results, you're more likely to be the chosen service. Okay. So let your website, let your web presence be your other salesperson. Yeah. That's good because it's always on 24/7. When you're sleeping, your website's still working for you. Yeah. So are your ads. So is your organic traffic. Yeah, that's good. So that being said, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, absolutely. What triggered you to start podcasting?
Well, I did another one before this one called Next Step Influencers, where we didn't come this far just to come this far. And it's so funny because I reinvent myself every 4.5 years. I get bored. I know myself pretty well. I'm a builder. I'm not a sustainer.
Okay.
So that being said, I was getting bored with my other businesses, I guess you would say. And I was like, what do I love doing? Like, what do I really want? For not for my life, but for next. And I just thought about it, and I was like, I love entrepreneurship. I just love it. And I love talking to people about it. And I love interviewing business owners because I own a franchise for a publishing company. So I was interviewing them for these publications. And that being said, I was like, I love interviewing them and I love entrepreneurship. Let me start a podcast where I just interview people. Because let's be honest, when you call a business owner and you say, hey, do you want to advertise? Sometimes they're not the most friendliest people. I don't blame them. Who wouldn't? But when you say, hey, you want to brag about yourself for a half hour? People are always doing that. So I thought it was a really cool way to get connected and give value back to businesses in Western New York while building that. And then eventually the goal here is to do events. So I'm glad you asked that question because it's really just kind of like we talked before, it's just taking one little next step at a time. And I've learned so much from doing this already. I love marketing, which is why I never get bored interviewing like marketing whizzes because I'm to be honest with you, I'm like a baby in that field.
Okay. Yeah.
So in my opinion.
Sure.
So that's
I think you're onto something hot, as far as marketing goes, because we use podcasting and Bean Media for, like a triple-edged sword. Because not only it provides content, it also provides information for our writers, and it also gives us the ability because we can animate too. So we can do take little sound bites and put talking heads in an animation and
so
throw
cool.
them on Instagram. So it really does a lot. And then the insight inside the business, because like you said, you get to pick someone's brain for a half hour.
Yeah. And it's so cool. It's like I said, it gives a business an outlet as well, just another touch or value as well. And then also I get to learn and people get to be a fly on the wall during this. So, but that being said, are we at 30 minutes yet?
28.
Okay. I'm pretty good at this time clock I'm looking at my phone, but sparingly. Yeah. So, but I've done enough of them at this point. So so again, thank you so much, Todd, for taking your time, Mike.
Yeah.
I don't, what's the word I'm trying to say? I just don't take it for granted for a little bit at all. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. And I think the one last thing I'd like to ask you, Dave, is what was your favorite? And you don't need to say me because that would be, put you on the spot.
As soon as you give me $50 under the table, I'll say, I'm just kidding. There you go.
So
yeah.
What was your favorite podcast so far while you've been doing this?
Depends what mood I'm in, right? In terms of if I feel like I'm being a really busybody, then I would say it's Nancy Shea from Graceful Warrior, a yoga. That was a really good one to really reset yourself.
Yeah.
But in terms of the most fun I've ever interviewed, it was probably Greg Norton. Greg Norton, who owns Twisted Rope.
Oh, yeah.
He was really good.
Yeah.
But we've had so many great guests on here, like Amy from Catalyst. We have an interview set up with Scott Beeler from West Terra. We just have some really cool entrepreneurs being on this podcast. I'm so excited to learn from them.
Yeah.
And it just never gets boring to me.
That's awesome.
So worst comes to worst, we had a great conversation and a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's no coffee today, some waters, but no, it is it's I think it's very seamless. It flows, just chat.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with you.
I enjoy it.
But thank you so much again for our listeners. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you check out Bean Media Productions, the website. You can rewind back. In fact, I want you to say it so they don't have to do so.
Yeah, it's Bean Media Productions with an S.com. BEAN. mediaproductions.com.
Yeah, so make sure you go to that. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a rating because we always want to keep this thing going. So we want to know how you guys are loving it. So again, thanks guys for listening. Thanks for being with us, Mike.
Absolutely. And I'm happy we get to be your first video.
Yeah, we popped that cherry. So looking at you, camera. So awesome.